All right, I'd like to give you a little bit of information about our facilitator. Jennifer Fitzpatrick is the author of Cruising Through Caregiving, Reducing the Stress of Caring for Your Loved One, and a gerontology instructor at Johns Hopkins University's Certificate on Aging program. She has been featured in national media, including the Wall Street Journal, the Huffington Post, the Washington Post, and the Chicago Tribune. When she's not speaking and writing about caregiving and healthcare, she can be found watching reruns of The Office. Please welcome Jennifer L. Fitzpatrick, MSW, LCSWC, CSP.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the last session of the virtual book club for dementia caregivers. We're so thrilled to have you here talking today about life after caregiving, protecting our brains, protecting our money. And we have some really terrific content for you based on chapter 15, the last chapter of Cruising Through Caregiving. As always, for this last session, we want to give a big thank you to our sponsors, Hilarity for Charity, hilarityforcharity.org, and Oasis Senior Advisors, oasissenior-advisors.com. Without them, this book club wouldn't exist. And thank you so much for all of the support, all of your participation, and all that you do to help caregivers. Today, we have a very special guest that we're going to be talking to soon. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about what this session is about, life after caregiving. What we want is for all of you to be able to do everything in your power to reduce the chance that you're going to need a caregiver someday, to do everything possible to not only protect your brain, but also potentially to protect your financial situation. Also, we're going to talk about some tips that while you're still caregiving, you can help your loved one who has dementia protect their financial situation. During the different book club sessions, we've talked a lot about finances, a lot about how much everything can cost. And this is one of the reasons that Hilarity for Charity and Oasis Senior Advisors and their free services and their respite services are such a blessing, because a lot in caregiving is expensive. So what we want to do today is a couple things. One, help you reduce the potential that you would have dementia. What are some ways that have been evidence-informed or evidence-based ways that are known to potentially help you reduce risk? But also, we're going to talk about how to reduce your risk for financial exploitation and reduce, maybe while you're still caregiving, reduce your loved one who has dementia's risk as well. And also, the focus of this session is to increase your independence and your quality of life as you age. So before we jump into the content, I'm going to introduce our very special guest who we're really excited to have today, Lori Peterson-Sakai, Senior Vice President of Elder Strategy at Wells Fargo. So welcome, Lori.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited. And I sound like I am repeating.
Okay, Lori, maybe if you wouldn't mind turning the muting on your computer, and I think you're on the telephone. If we could just hear you on your phone line. So, Lori, if we actually have you on both, so sorry, everybody. Usually the technology works great, but we've had a couple snags during the book club. This is just one of those. We apologize for the technical difficulties. Lori, if your volume and you're able to hear us, and we could hear you, I believe, on your computer, if you just either turn off your phone or turn off your computer, hang up the phone call, or just click out of the computer so we can talk to you. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll give Lori a minute, hopefully, to figure that out. Lori, are you there? Again, sorry, everybody. While we're waiting for Lori to figure out her technical issues, what we're going to talk about today in a little while with Hilarity for Charity are some of the brain healthy events that they have coming up and some of the wonderful things that
Can't hear her without that.
on their website. Lori, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Lori.
Okay, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
that's terrific. Okay, so we were about to, what I call in Cruising Through Caregiving, we always talk about course correcting. We were about to course correct and have Hilarity for Charity do their part first, but we're going to go ahead and jump back to you. We are so excited to have you here today. Lori, it's interesting because a lot of times when people hear Wells Fargo, it's such a well-known company in the financial world, and people are thinking, what on earth could they have to do with older adults and caregiving? So that's why you're here today. So tell us a little bit about your background, your experience, and what Wells Fargo has to do with older adults and caregiving.
Sure, I love this opportunity to talk with you. I think one of the things that I am so excited about having this opportunity is that about, 9.5 years ago, we were embarking on our family cruise in caregiving. And one of the things that I found to be remarkable when I read your book was, where was it 10 years ago for me? I really found it to be it spoke to me. And I really am just saying from a personal and professional level, it's an amazing book. So thank you so much for writing it. And so from my personal experience, I'll just start from that because I think it all stems from that. I had very different things in my life that came about. We lost my dad about 7 years ago to Alzheimer's. I have been a primary caregiver for my mother-in-law till about 3.5 years. She lived with us and she lived to the ripe old age of 90. So I think that was a whole different experience, having somebody live with you and aging, because I don't have any kids, I have cats. So for me, having that one-on-one relationship with somebody that, in the mornings, it depended on, my husband getting her ready. And then during lunch, it was us as a team. And then I was the evening caregiver, right? So that whole journey. Now we're at another place with my mom. My mom is 80. And she has some health concerns. So now as a family, we have a different journey that we're on. So it really has been something for me that my 30-some years in the financial industry, the last 5 have been focused around seniors and vulnerable adults. So my life and the experiences that I've had led me to be right where I am today, caring about seniors, caring about our clients. So as far as what I do for Wells Fargo, it truly is a blessing that these experiences have happened, because now I focus all my attention on ways to help our financial advisors and our clients get to that space. So that's just a little beginning of it, but it's a lot. And I'm just really proud to be able to be here and share some of that with you.
And they're so fortunate at Wells Fargo to have you heading up the Elder Initiative, because you have so much personal experience in this arena as well. Now, I know you can't see the screen right now, but we have up the link that we're going to send this out. It's the Wells Fargo's link to planning and life events. And that's going to be sent out with if you're on our e-list, we're going to send that out to you as well. And that will come to you so you can check out. But Lori, tell us a little bit. I know, again, people think Wells Fargo, finances, money, investments. Tell us, what is Wells Fargo doing for older adults? How are they looking out for older adults?
Well, it's really a lot of different ways. I mean, our focus is making sure we're being there and educating our financial advisors, team members, what it's like and how we can help them through those phases in their life. And it's not an age number. It's really part of life. So it could be somebody that is 50 years old helping their parent. It could be somebody that's 40 trying to start planning for retirement and having things in place. So it's really a very wide big umbrella, but the focus that I am bringing and what we hope to be doing is things such as the trusted contact with FINRA that just came out in February of 2017. So when you open up an account with Wells Fargo, what the financial advisor will be doing is asking you for a trusted contact. They're not requiring it, but it's one of those things to help a conversation so that if something were to happen, who would you like us to contact? And I think it's building pieces like that that are so huge.
So Lori, let me talk to you a little bit about that. So for those who are listening, if you have any sort of investment, if you work with a financial professional, back in February of 2018, it became a rule with FINRA, who regulates in the financial industry, that for financial professionals to be asking their clients, is there a trusted contact person if it involves, if we're concerned about your cognitive health or your ability to take care of your account. And so tell us a little bit more about that, because I think we've talked in this book club so much about how caregiving can be really expensive. And so we want to try to protect our finances as much as possible. What would a financial professional really be allowed to do with that contact information?
Well, what's important to know is that that trusted individual that's listed does not have any rights or any kind of authority over that account. It's not a power of attorney. It's not a document that gives them access to any of the finances or anything on the account. It's really important to realize that this is a person to say, you know, I'm concerned. Perhaps maybe the individual has left messages that are just not coherent, or possibly they could be stuck in a scam. Unfortunately, some people get stuck in scams, and I think that part of what we hold true is that we're here to help you maintain the lifestyle that you have planned for yourself. And one of those things is if we see that something's happening and you're, you know, getting off course, so to speak, we need to be able to reach out and talk with somebody that you have designated to help us partner to have those conversations with you and to help try to figure out what might be going on. And cognitive impairment is just one of those situations. And
Lori, thank you for the clarity, because during book club, we've talked a lot about how it would be a really good idea. Last week, we actually had Dr. Jennifer Kennedy on from the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization. And she talked to us about why we need to have advanced directives, why we need to identify financial and healthcare power of attorney ahead of time, those sorts of things. And we talked a lot about seeing an elder law attorney. This is definitely different, though, because this would only be, say, for example, like you said, if maybe you have a 10-year relationship with your financial professional and suddenly you get lost on the way to their office, they haven't moved their office. Exactly. Your financial professional's saying, oh gosh, I'm really worried about this person, or maybe they don't remember my name and we've had a relationship for 25 years. Are those the sorts of things that would trigger maybe calling that trusted contact person?
Exactly. I mean, when you think about the relationship with the financial advisor and their client, it spans years and years and years. So through that journey with each other, they get to know each other and they have a plan, and they've seen how they want their retirement to go and what those plans are. When a financial advisor, and sometimes it's a client associate that works with the financial advisor, is the person that helps them with their checkbook balance, or it helps them with things, distribution. Sometimes it's not necessarily the financial advisor, it's the team that they work with. It might be the teller that comes into the bank that sees something. So I would just want to say that the experience that, well, it's a relationship. And many times, depending on how you interact with that individual, something may rise to the occasion to be abnormal, not what they would expect. And I think that changes for each person.
Okay, so what else might you say? And I know from talking with you, I know that you actually educate the public about protecting your financial situation, but you also educate your staff persons about how to be a resource to protect clients that might have some diminished capacity. Is there another scenario that maybe you use as an example that would trigger maybe getting that trusted contact person involved?
Oh my gosh, there's so many, Jennifer. I think probably you'd mentioned the one about, getting lost into the office. I mean, unfortunately, that does happen. Another is possibly that somebody is asked for an unusual withdrawal from their account.
Right.
We've been asked to get money available so that they can go buy gift cards.
Right.
We've been asked to liquidate and move money so that they could, the lottery, that they think they've won the lottery. And so there's many different situations, but I think that the biggest thing I would just say is that a trusted contact is that person that you would want to expand that relationship to be able to have somebody support you during those times. And you might have 3 children and you want an ability to reach out to one of them that might not be living right next door, but somebody else. So I think it's a wonderful way to create that safety net and to have people that care for you.
Absolutely. And I think for all of you who are listening to this, if you're listening live or the recording, you might have had your loved one who has dementia have a scam happen to them, or give away their money, and maybe it's not even that someone intentionally scammed them. Maybe it's that they just wrote a whole bunch of checks to different charities, but they really couldn't afford to. This is what we want to just, for all of us who don't have dementia today, think about this ahead of time. Just like you would write out your advance directives, just like you would, identify your financial power of attorney if you were incapacitated. Please consider what Lori's advice is and identify, if you have a financial account with a financial professional, identify who your trusted contact person. If someone's concerned about your state of mind, if someone's concerned, because probably many people, their lesson that they have learned from being a caregiver and knowing how expensive it can be is they don't want their funds to fall into the wrong hands, or for them to maybe, like you said, spend all this money on the lottery that they really can't afford.
And I think the other thing, Jennifer, to realize is that they've spent their lifetime saving this money to be able to live in the manner that they choose. And I think that part of what we need to be able to do as caregivers and daughters and sons is to honor that wish and to help protect the assets that they have. And I think sometimes people forget when we talk about brokerage or we talk about banks. I just want to remind people there's all different types of assets. There's property, there's cars. Sometimes people have, maybe a spare room that they're renting out in their home. Property and value is not just limited to a checkbook. It could be credit. It's bigger than just, a brokerage account or a checking account. I just want to make sure that people understand how big that is.
Absolutely. And I think that what we want to just make sure, if persons who are caregiving are listening today, and maybe your loved one is in the early stages of a dementia diagnosis, this might, while they still can make decisions, you or somebody in your caregiver crew sit down with, if there is a financial professional or a financial advisor involved, introduce yourself, make sure that they know who you are, so that there isn't, maybe your loved one is actually still living at home because they're very, very still early in the disease process. So this is just something to be thinking about, just another way to protect the person that you love who has dementia if they're still in the early stages, but also in the future, how to protect ourselves in the future. Because even if it's not a matter of you needed the money for your own care, like Lori just said, if you spent your whole life creating assets and wealth, perhaps you want it to go to certain loved ones in your family, and you want it to go to or a charity, or there's something like that you're hoping and planning that your estate goes to after you pass away. We want to make sure that you're not meeting somebody at the grocery store who befriends you and just adds themselves to your account. And we do see that happen with people who have dementia, don't we, Lori?
Yes, unfortunately, there are opportunities for people to see that vulnerability. And one of the things I'm not as proud of myself is the denial that my dad had, Alzheimer's. And I think that we need to all remember that if we are downplaying what somebody is, how they're what level they are in that cognitive decline space, others that have maybe not so great motives, how they can take advantage of that. So I would want everybody, when we talk about the advance directive, when we talk about all these things, remember that the sooner that we have those conversations and have the planning done, the more that other people are aware, and you have that bigger safety net. Because as you said, when somebody becomes vulnerable, if you're not seeing it for what it is, other people can actually take advantage of that. So I would just, once again, remember preventative, have the conversations, include the financial professionals or people in your life, because all together you get that safety, that safety net, that crew together to protect your loved one.
What about the other risk I think that we see is potentially maybe somebody has a nice size portfolio and then they are swindled or they are exploited, and then they go ahead and they really do need to apply for medical assistance or Medicaid. And of course, we have a whole chapter in Cruising Through Caregiving about that. And now they're not eligible because of that 5-year or 60-month look back period. So, it's not their fault. Somebody exploited them. So I think that's yet another reason to just put all of these, have these conversations early, have them often, not just for the loved one you're caring for now, but for yourself. Do it now while your brain is healthy.
Totally agree, Jennifer. And I think I have 2 examples. With my dad, we kept on putting those conversations off. He thought his 3 girls would all agree and everything was going to be fine. And we just kept pushing that rock down the road, right? But I will tell you, with my mother-in-law, she had everything in place. When things started declining for her, it wasn't, her son and I trying to make decisions on her behalf. She was already making them based on her documents. So I think part of what we need to remember is that having conversations early and often, and I totally agree with that in your book, it's about things change and having that positive conversation as we go through the journey. There's no regrets that way, because you're constantly in step with them, and being part of their life is helping protect them.
And also, for those of us who are maybe caregiving and you've gone through this with your parent or your sibling or whoever it is that you're caring for, a grandparent, and you don't know what they want or they have been exploited, when you get all of this together, you're really giving a gift. If you are ever incapacitated, if you're ever unable to decide what you want to do with your money. And again, I just want to reiterate what Lori's saying is giving your financial professional, empowering the financial professional with the name of a trusted contact person while you have all your cognitive ability. That does not mean the person gets to do whatever they want with your account. That doesn't mean that they get to be in charge of things. Not at all, right?
Correct. It is not any power of attorney. It truly is allowing the financial advisor and the firm to reach out and talk to somebody. It's very similar to the emergency contact when you go to a doctor or you go to the dentist, or you I dropped my cat off over the weekend at the vet, and they ask for, if I can't reach you, who can I call? That's who that person is.
That's exactly right. So every caregiver, please, especially if you've had any challenges with this with your loved one, just do yourself a favor, do this preventive care to prevent exploitation if you are in the situation where you're not able to make decisions for yourself. So we're going to take a step aside. We're going to come back to finances shortly, but we're going to take a step aside, and we're going to talk for a moment. And in Cruising Through Caregiving, I talk about the boring advice that nobody wants to hear. And so one of the reasons I invited Lori on, I was so excited that she was available from Wells Fargo, is because I think everybody knows there's so much data and information out there now about the lifestyle choices that we can choose or not choose to try to reduce risk of having a dementia someday. And I joke in Cruising Through Caregiving, and I say, this is the boring advice nobody wants to hear, because a lot of us have heard it. We just might not be doing it. And I'm just going to say one of them is exercise. There's so much evidence that if we exercise, that we can reduce our risk for different types of dementia. But what I'm going to do in a moment is really turn it over to Hilarity for Charity in a couple moments to share about what you can learn from them and their partners after book club, again, to try to reduce the risk that you're going to need a caregiver someday. So we sort of tackled a little bit of that financial piece, power of attorneys, financial power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, having a trusted contact on financial accounts, as Lori mentioned and advocates, and she teaches all over the country about this. But other lifestyle that perhaps you have heard about, but maybe you're not embracing as much. So I want to say a big thank you again to our wonderful sponsors, Hilarity for Charity, Oasis Senior Advisors, hilarityforcharity.org, oasissenior-advisors.com. But I'm going to welcome back RJ for the last time for our virtual book club. Thank you, RJ. We are going to turn it over to you for a little while. And I want you to share some of these wonderful resources that are on your webpage that Hilarity for Charity can help with in try to reduce risk for different types of dementia. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and turn it over.
Great. Hold on, let me add up my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. Well, hey, everybody. I want to thank you all for taking advantage of the book club. I know that I've personally learned a lot, so I hope it's helped you feel more confident and prepared in your role as a caregiver. I know from personal experience, it's a selfless job, so in case you don't hear it enough, thank you for all that you do. As you've heard in previous sessions, Hilarity for Charity is really here to help families that are affected by Alzheimer's. So I hope you'll continue to look to us for resources or guidance going forward, because we know that being a good caregiver really starts with taking care of yourself. So as we wrap up today's session, our 15th and final, which is incredible to say, I invite you to visit our website to learn more about our programs, including our free respite relief care grants, our online support groups, and more. And just want to share one thing kind of on that risk reduction and prevention that Jen was just mentioning. So we are launching exciting work around brain health, something that isn't really talked about, especially when you go to the doctor. You don't ask, hey, can you check my brain, make sure everything's going well there? But we know the Alzheimer's disease can begin to develop 20 or 30 years before symptoms show. So we really want to help people today in thinking about what they can be doing to live a long and healthy brain life. So if you go to our website, hilarityforcharity.org, right at the top, you'll see brain health. So just click on there, and right from there, you'll see these are the 5 brain health habits that we say everyone should be incorporating. We know it's a lot to expect everything to happen right away, but these are the 5 things to kind of really think about. So sleep, nutrition, emotional well-being, exercise, and mental fitness. So you can read a little bit more on the different categories there. But what I'd say to do is really just go here and click sign up. We have an exciting program launching in January. So if you sign up, you can be the first to know about that program and participate. It's, again, a free resource for you. So hopefully we can get you involved. But we have some more links on here about why it's important to think about risk reduction and prevention. We have a video of Seth. We partnered with the Alzheimer's Prevention Clinic at New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Medicine. So we have Professor Seth Rogen teaching some online courses there. So simply just go to hilarityforcharity.org, click on brain health, sign up, and then when you click on it, your email, and then you can also learn some other things around caregiver resources, news about Alzheimer's, and more. So stay tuned. We want to do more book clubs. And as always, please reach out. And one last thank you to Jen and Tim for your ongoing support, and to Lori for joining today's session. Jen, I think you're still on mute.
Thank you. We know that Hilarity for Charity, also just a reminder to everybody that we have the wonderful program with the Respite Care that you can apply for a respite grant if you feel like you might benefit from one. And so that's a lot of what Hilarity for Charity does, but these additional services are fantastic as well. So especially this brain health, financial health, brain health, what we want to try to empower everybody is to try to, hopefully maybe you don't need a caregiver someday. Maybe you'll live the rest of your life as independently as possible. That's the goal, hopefully. But right now, while you need care, Hilarity for Charity is a wonderful resource for respite care. So apply for those grants if you feel that you could benefit from one. Thank you so much, RJ. It's been such a pleasure working on this project with you.
Thank you.
So now I'm going to invite Tim Ivankovich, the CEO of the Senior Advisors. And hi, Tim.
Hello, Jen. How are you today?
Good, good. Thank you again for being our sponsor and making this happen. We are so grateful for your support. Any thoughts on some of the topics that we're talking about today and how it relates to Oasis Senior Advisors?
Yeah, I think one of the most important, and we've discussed this on some other calls as well, and Lori, thank you for your comments today. It's very pertinent, but one of the biggest keys is, look at it early in your lifespan of when you're looking at your financial picture and all of that. Do it while you have all of your faculties and can make it an easier process for sure. So that's one of our things our advisors do a lot of, is really stressing that information early on. And Lori, for your edification as well, I know some of our franchisees across the country work with some financial planners within Wells Fargo. So, and I'm a member as well. So it was great to see a friendly logo on the screen today. But yeah, it is important, I think, for our seniors and their families to understand this is such an important aspect of the financial picture, and getting all of their ducks in a row early makes a huge difference in how much easier the process is later on, for sure. So, and I know our advisors help in a lot of those areas, ongoing, directing them to great companies like Wells Fargo and what Lori does.
And OasisSeniorAdvisors.com, if you need assistance, if you're at the point where your loved one might need senior living, or even you're just not sure what they need, check out the OasisSeniorAdvisors.com website and talk to one of their franchises, and everything that they do is completely free to the older adult and their family, correct, Tim?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you so much to Tim and for the support of Oasis Senior Advisors and OasisSeniorAdvisors.com. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Jen. And also, I just want to say thanks to the last great 16 weeks of our book club, and a great partnership with Hilarity for Charity, and certainly with you as well. Want to wish everybody a safe and happy Labor Day weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tim. For those who are joining us live, we want to make sure you have a safe and happy Labor Day weekend coming up. So hilarityforcharity.org, OasisSeniorAdvisors.com. If you want more information about either of them, check them out. Both of them are providing a multitude of free services to older adults and their families, and Hilarity for Charity in particular, persons with Alzheimer's disease, other dementias, and their family members. So throughout cruising through caregiving, one of the things I constantly say is, do you need to course correct? So as far as for preparing for life after caregiving, what lessons have you learned? And Lori, I'm wondering maybe if you might want to share a lesson that you learned, that you want to change something that you're doing since you've been a caregiver, or something maybe it's not you, but it perhaps could be somebody that you've worked with, or maybe a story a financial professional has told you about. Maybe they learned something by being a caregiver that they decided to change something, course correct in their own life, maybe financially or in a brain health way.
Oh my goodness, there's a couple of things I felt like I just need to share. I think one of the biggest lessons I learned personally was just slowing down. I think that during the day, whether you're a working mom or you're a daughter that's trying to juggle things, which is where I am right now, is just to slow down. I think sometimes we forget that when we're dealing with a person that is having cognitive space, that there might be declining, just to slow things down. And so that's my biggest lesson, is to take a breath and to just get calm, because it's rushing never fixes whatever it is that we're trying to do. So that's like my number one thing. The number two thing, the lesson I have learned through many cases that we deal with from a financial exploitation piece, is to know the signs, understand that sometimes things can be small, but together you add them up with other pieces and they create a different picture. So part of the piece that I gave you to share with the group, it's a brochure, and I would just say, know the signs of what financial exploitation looks like. Make sure that if something doesn't feel right, to trust your gut. Part of what we need to just acknowledge is that things are changing, and that sometimes people that you would not even imagine would take advantage of somebody make poor choices. So, part of what we need to do is keep our eyes and ears and our heart open to what we see and hear, and to really acknowledge what we see, and to get help when you see something that just doesn't seem right.
Well, Lord, do you mind, since we're going to send that out, we did have the link up earlier, and we are going to send that out to everybody who is a member of the book club, but can you maybe give us a couple of signs to be...
Sure, I can do that.
As far as financial exploitation.
One of the early signs is just reluctance to talk about financial affairs. If part of when somebody has been scammed, they possibly could be more defensive when you're asking them a question about finances. Maybe there's just some unexplained withdrawals that are happening, and when you speak with your parent, they become a lot of excuses, because the bad characters out there are making them believe something to a point that they're telling them not to share, not to talk about it. So you need to kind of read the tea leaves in some cases, because things are happening that are not normal. How about abrupt or unexplained changes in legal documents? If somebody is presenting somebody with a new power of attorney, that is a big question that needs to be asked. Let's just say something in the behavioral or social relationships with new best friends or new romance partners. Not saying that seniors or people that are older can have relationships, but it doesn't seem like it's all a one-way thing, right? So it's those types of things that I guess that are just coming to mind. I mean, there's numerous. I was just saying a few of those, but it's really looking at someone's normal patterns, that they've changed, and they've not changed just because of someone's cognitive abilities. It's not forgetfulness. It's really more evasive behaviors that I would say in some cases are really telling that there's something that needs to be looked at a little bit further. Any more?
Yeah, no, those are all really great. Thank you for sharing those. I just wanted to mention again, and all this again, for if you're caring for somebody, and especially somebody early, mid, but for yourself, just keep in mind as you're going through your own aging process, all of us are aging. It's life after caregiving also, being isolated at all is definitely a risk factor. So one of the things that I think is so important, and I know that it's definitely part of that brain healthy lifestyle, is being around other people, engaging with others. Just keep that in mind for yourself. Even if you don't have dementia, the data suggests that if you're isolated and you're not around people that know you or known you and that you trust, that you are at additional risk.
Definitely. And I think everything you're saying, Jennifer, is absolutely on target. So thank you.
Yeah. So what can you do to reduce your risk for financial exploitation? We talked a little bit about don't be isolated, talk to your financial professionals, get your power of attorneys in place, make your wishes known, and because you want to be able to protect, that money that you've worked so hard for. And then finally, just going back to brain health and financial health for a moment. There might be some people on this program that are, RJ pulled up the Hilarity for Charity page about their brain healthy initiatives and the new program that they're doing in January. January is a great time if you need to reconsider some of your lifestyle choices. I know that a lot of us tend to beat ourselves up, and even maybe some people are on this program today and they're beating themselves up and saying, gosh, I need to do better investing or saving for retirement. Don't beat yourself up. Just think about what are the little things that you can do to boost your financial health. What might be a good thing as far as that goes, Lori? Maybe some small steps someone can take to boost financial health.
Small steps. I think for me, it's to make sure you're having conversations with the financial advisor. I think just like when you get your, dental checkup or when you do things on a yearly basis, I think you need to do that with not only your financial portfolio, but you also need to do that with your legal documents. Make sure that your beneficiaries are, exactly who you want them to be. Make sure you're looking at those documents that you've provided, because part of that is life changes, and we need to make sure that whatever it is that's current is what you believe it to be, and make sure you're partnering with those people in your family or in your caregiving crew that that they know what your wishes are. I think that is so important, especially as we go through with my mom, married to my dad 57 years. That period of time for her after my dad passed away was extremely difficult, not only for her, but his 3 daughters and our families. And so part of us had to kind of regroup and rethink about the future for my mom, because that is not what her plan was. I don't know really what the plan was, but it wasn't what happened.
Right.
So we have to make sure that we're there for those people that are in a position that need help and guidance during those period of time that they're a little bit lost on their way.
Definitely. And so, Lori, great advice. So to merging this all together, financial health, brain health, doing everything we can so hopefully we maybe don't need a caregiver someday. We live as independently as possible. Like we go to the doctor every year, we go to the dentist a couple times a year, maybe you go to get massages, maybe you exercise, all that's good, but do those checkups for your financial health as well. Because while health, mental health, cognitive health, physical health, all that is critical, it's certainly retirement years can be a lot more enjoyable if we've got enough money to, sometimes we were living way longer than we thought we would. So having that financial health in place can really help us enjoy our later years as much as possible as well.
Jennifer, I wanted to share one thing if I could. I have a quote
Sure.
when I go around the country and I talk about, it's really a story of my life many times, but this is an amazing quote, and I think it just fits perfectly with this book club. And it's by Sandra Day O'Connor. We don't accomplish anything in this world alone. Whatever happens is the result of the whole tapestry of one's life and all the weavings of individual threads forming one to another that create something. And I think when we talk about caregiving and we talk about how to protect each other, that's what it's about. It's about the tapestry of our lives and how we all help each other. And I think we learn from when we've caregiven, and I know that that's where I'm at. How can I take what I've learned and move it forward, not only for myself, but the people that love me and my community. And I think that's what it's all about. And I just think that quote just says it all for me anyway.
It's beautiful. And especially I'm a big fan of the way that Justice Sandra Day O'Connor handled everything with her husband. She was a very inspirational caregiver, I think. And of course, she has dementia now. And so very appropriate quote. I really appreciate that, Lori. one last thing is just wanted to say, when you leave this book club, whether you're joining us live or whether you're joining us on a recording, just try to think about one small risk reduction change you can make this week. Just going through some of the evidence is maybe don't isolate. That's good for your financial health, and it's good for your physical, mental, and cognitive health. Actually, there's data all over the place that suggests that. Can you do a little bit more exercise? Can you commit to once a year with your financial professional? I know a lot of us get really overwhelmed when we see all the things we quote unquote should be doing, but maybe we're not. And think about what just one small thing that you can do to reduce risk for dementia, reduce risk for exploitation as we age. So just if you can try to commit to just one thing that you can do, that's a step in the right direction. And all we want is everybody to just be doing the best that they can to try to prepare for the best possible aging process. So I want to just say a last thank you. Again, our very last special guest, Lori Peterson-Sakai, Senior Vice President, Elder Strategy Leader, Wells Fargo, wellsfargo.com. And again, the link to their elder resources will be sent to all of our book club members. And hopefully we'll put that on the YouTube page as well. And thank you again, Hilarity for Charity, hilarityforcharity.org, Oasis Senior Advisors, oasissenior-advisors.com. We are so grateful for your support and for the support of the Cruising Through Caregiving virtual book club for dementia caregivers. And lastly, these sessions are going to live on the Hilarity for Charity YouTube page, but also on the cruisingthroughcaregiving.com page. Share with anybody that you believe could benefit from the replays. It's totally free. And share, because like Lori said, like that beautiful quote that she shared from Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, we need to support each other throughout caregiving. So thank you all so much. Thank you, RJ. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Lori. And thank you to the team for all the help and all the work you did for this program for the last 15 weeks. Thank you. And check us out at cruisingthroughcaregiving.com, hilarityforcharity.org, oasissenior-advisors.com, and of course, wellsfargo.com. Thank you.